Hello, welcome to the channel and a new series that I'm calling AI Learning Journey. And so this is something that's going to exist here on my channel, and I'm going to try to share news and concise videos on learning about AI. Certainly I've been spending a lot of time on AI, and I certainly want to share those learnings with you all as well. And so what you can expect is a post once a week on AI, like outside of Logic apps. I'm going to try to include both Microsoft and non-Microsoft content and learnings. And, I just feel like with this space changing so quickly and it is so vast that the best way to learn is to look for a variety of sources. And so I want to basically be expansive in my list. And the other thing I would say is like the disclaimer, like these views are my personal opinions and they don't necessarily represent my employer. And for those reasons, that's why I want to keep this very open and see what we can go ahead and learn. And if you're new to the channel, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Likes, comments, appreciated as well. So let's start off with this announcement of OpenAI and TIME joining together in a strategic content partnership. Now, I'll explain on sort of the next slide why I feel like this is particularly important, but it is interesting that OpenAI, obviously the makers of ChatGPT, have gone ahead and signed this strategic content partnership that does allow them to access both current and historic content from TIME's extensive archives that consists of more than 101 years of content. And the benefit of doing this is that ChatGPT or OpenAI users will benefit from this content that is accurate and coming from a, trusted source. Now, in this case, it's, I think, a good thing, right? It's one of those things where OpenAI is essentially supporting these content creators. And I know that there has been some issues in the past about, or concerns about, how some of these AI providers have trained their models and whether or not they've infringed on copyright. So this, I feel, is particularly interesting, and largely I would see this as a positive development. Now, where this gets really interesting in my mind is we've got David Usher here. If you're Canadian, you probably have heard that name before. He's a musician historically. He came from the band Moist. He's also had some solo projects. And certainly when I was going through university, he was very big and was playing at all of the Canadian festivals. Quite talented. I actually like his music a fair bit. Looks like his career, he's pivoted, and he is now actually in technology. So you can see here, he's the founder of Reimagine AI. And he's providing some commentary of Mustafa Suleyman. And I'll include a link here to this video so you can hear it for yourself. But in the video, Mustafa is talking a bit about how the world has changed, and as of the 90s, all of this information has been available on the internet, and he refers to it more as like freeware. And then when you have paywalls, then that's sort of a gray area. And I'm not going to say that's right or wrong, that's his perspective, but I feel like that's why this is pretty important, that whole TIME agreement, because there are these concerns that exist out in the public about how these AI companies train their models. And in fact, Wall Street Journal actually has some lawsuits issued on the matter because they feel that their content has been used in training these models, and that is, not without their permission or without their benefit. And so this is where I find this to be a particularly interesting situation. Obviously, I'm a content creator, obviously at a much smaller level than many of the people impacted here. And I've written books, and I've seen those books being basically copied and plagiarized, and the PDFs showing up on some of these websites. And basically, like, I'm not seeing a dime for my work. And so to a certain extent, I can kind of feel how some of these organizations work. Obviously, the stakes are massively much larger for them than that me, writing some books or writing some courses. I don't rely on those as sort of my sole income. And as a result, at the end of the day, it's not a huge impact. I don't sort of starve or not pay bills as a result. But when this is your business, I can appreciate where they are coming from. Now, it does beg the question, though, of this whole notion of open and even open source versus a paywall. And this is where I'll be honest, I'm a little bit conflicted about how I feel about this. So I could write a book, I could sell that book to someone. Someone could then go ahead and learn from that book and actually implement the next greatest big idea that allows them to do something really fantastic. And I think everyone would say, oh, like that's a legitimate use case. Now, that's a human that's going ahead and learning. What is the sort of difference with a machine being able to learn that? And maybe a book's not the greatest example because it's something that someone typically pays for. But same thing with a blog post. If I put out blog posts or public videos like such as this one on YouTube, and someone learns from that video and goes and invents something quite great, I think we would probably all agree that that's cool and that's fine. But if a machine goes ahead and learns something, because of my work that's in the open, I think for some people they would have some issues with it. Now, I do feel when we introduce a paywall, like the game changes fairly significantly. Like being able to circumvent a paywall so that you can repurpose someone's work, and whether you attribute it or not, you're doing it without their permission. And I feel like that is where we're starting to cross that line. And that's where I feel like some of these media rights deals, such as the one we saw with Time Magazine, might provide that balance that creators are looking for. Now, it gets pretty interesting. If you listen to Reid Hoffman, who's the co-founder of LinkedIn and obviously a very successful technologist and business person, he's got some interesting views on this as well. If you go look at his Possible podcast, he talks a little bit about it. And sort of where he struggles with is similar to sort of my feelings, is that, or maybe I've learned my feelings based on his work, but it's one of those things where what is the difference between someone learning from a person's work and moving that work forward, or a machine learning from someone's work and moving that forward? I think, he kind of looks at this as we've got antiquated copyright laws. And, I don't think the copyright laws were ever created with a machine in mind. But that's what's interesting about AI, is that these machines can continue to learn and they can continue to evolve from that perspective. And so that's where, I do feel that change is inevitable. I feel like this is a pretty important topic. I'll be the first to admit I don't have all the answers here, but I do feel like this is something that people should be very conscious of and aware of. And I think when we talk about safe AI, or we talk about, responsible AI, I would include some of these, these matters as part of being responsible, and not blatantly copying someone's work so that you can profit from it as well. So I think this will be an interesting space to watch. I would encourage people to continue to monitor this, educate themselves, because I feel like this is very important as we move forward. So that concludes this video. I hope you enjoy it. Go ahead, like and subscribe. Also love to hear your perspectives in the comments about this particular matter. How you feel about these large AI models benefiting from public sources of data, and also perhaps paywalled data sources. So let me know what you think. Thanks.